Hey, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with someone who I've looked up to big time over the past few years, Paul Cale, the CEO of Kinetic Fighting. So I want to thank you so much, Paul, for coming on today, because I know how busy you are.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm pretty excited about this, if you didn't notice. So Paul, throughout this, I'm super keen to check in with you, if that's cool with you, about resilience, and also how on a spiritual, mental and physical level, both martial arts and serving as a commando has played a huge role in how you deal with adversity as well as helping others. And your journey has been massive. It's been really incredible. Over the last few years that I've known you, listening to your interviews and feeling the energy of how dedicated you are to whatever you do. So before we go any further, I'd really love you to share with our listeners how Kinetic Fighting came about, because that's kind of how I first came into contact with you.
Okay, well, the way it sort of started is I started out with working on the close quarter fighting course for the Commandos.
Yeah.
Now, Kinetic Fighting, it wasn't a name or anything like that at that stage, and I was just thinking of a term for the new program that we were doing.
Yeah.
So I had that idea sort of entered my mind, but basically the work that I had done at the time, sort of at 2 Commando Regiment, originally 4-hour Commando, which later became 2nd Commando Regiment. It sort of, it was a work in progress. It sort of cemented itself by 2010. I started it in, say, 2006, sort of working on it, finished with what I was doing around about 2010, and then sort of went off in other directions that supported that capability. Once I had left, I was asked to expand on that with all of Army, with the Army Combatives Program, ACP and so on. So I needed a mechanism basically that, a company name. And because I had already sort of thought of that name earlier, and we use the term a fair bit now. So in the Army, we have an IA, immediate action. So I named a new process, the Kinetic IA. And there's a whole bunch of new terminology like wall domination, ground domination. Instead of just saying ground fighting, there was a mindset. So all these different names and ideas, I sort of collated them. And when I delivered that package, I pretty much did it. I did do it for nothing. I pretty much did it for nothing. I did it for nothing for the infantry corps. But then I just asked that I own the IP and that Defence uses that IP under license. So that I had to have a company to do that, and the company name.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how the name came about. It was just out of necessity with what we were doing. And then the Army did pay me to then go from what we were doing with the infantry corps to expanding the program to the whole Army.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of it. And it's sort of with the civilian program, with the policing programs, it just all sort of came under the one banner, sort of expanded from there.
Yeah. That's good. You're already, because I've got more questions that I want to ask about that, and you're already answering some of those questions for me, and I'm thinking, yes, this is cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. This is something that I'm really, there's a lot of things I'm really interested in. I've got so many cool questions for you. So I heard on one of your interviews, and the reason that I bring this up is because a lot of us didn't excel at school. I'm one of them. So we, go into searching into our lives, what is that thing that we excel at, and what helps us rise as a human being, what fulfills us. And for you, you mentioned that both martial arts and the Army were something that you excelled at, and how that propelled you forward to want to achieve more. And you were super flat out training in special forces, and you had the pressure of maybe even people getting frustrated with you and your progress, like moving forward so quickly, because obviously everyone holds their position in high regards, right? And it's a big deal to be like the first reservist, to go full time and go onto promotion and for RIR. And it seems like you've conquered like a heap of major firsts that were also like personal best, maybe for yourself or others. So like from a resilience point of view and a personal point of view, how did that really fuel your discipline and drive for excellence?
Well, to begin with, the Army was, when I first joined the Army, it was 1987.
Yeah.
So it was a very different Army to what you see today. And it had a very small budget to achieve what it needed to achieve. The Cold War was in progress. So there wasn't a sense that Australia needed an army. It was in the middle of its longest period of peace, which, you know, since with the Vietnam War finishing, and it was just before Somalia kicked off. So it was odd, but the interesting thing is that all of the warrant officers and the commanding officers and so on were Vietnam veterans. The RSM had done 3 tours of Vietnam, and I found them to be amazing leaders and role models. And the people that were in the Army, everything was sort of about people management. People didn't progress quickly like now. Like now there's a quick turnover. There's a lot more numbers than what there were then. So people progress much quicker, where back then you could be a private for 8 years, you know. So even your rank structure back then, senior privates were, you know, would give direction to junior privates. And it was, you know, very much structured like that. So it was a great exposure to leadership and to justice within organisation and things like that. And that stayed with me. That was a huge thing for me, especially coming out of school, which I felt was nothing like that, you know. So it sort of left a mark on me, but I didn't realise it was a time and place, and everything changes over time. Organisations change over time. And they change with objectives, they change with people, and so on. So I carried on with my Army career with that mindset, I guess. And then I didn't understand some other things that play out. I didn't understand, you know. I guess the biggest thing for me was resilience is also, a lot of people talk about being successful, achieving your goals. People don't really talk about the other side of that. What happens when you do achieve your goals? There's a lot of depression that people have, like Olympic athletes on the other end of the Olympics. You know, elite athletes. The
highs of it, and then just like
and the thing is, that's what you see yourself as being. So you dedicate everything to it, and all of a sudden it's not there. And it's like you actually have to redefine yourself. Now, it is exactly like that when you reach your so-called life goals. Now, when we sort of come up with our life goals, we're kids. So those life goals, one, may not actually be yours. They may be a great influence from your parents or people around you, or you wanting to prove that you can do this or can do that. So they don't tend to be really what you want for yourself, I find, and you work so hard to achieve what you think others want you to be. The other thing too is there are things that happen in your life that make you feel that you need to do certain things to be safe, or to be able to do other things that you want to do in your life. You need to first achieve this or that. So it's been interesting, because the goals I set out for myself as a child, like basically as a child, you know, I achieved them in my 30s. Like I didn't think I would be doing anything that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So you've got to reassess who you are. And I'd say that's similar to being an athlete or anything else.
Yeah.
Being in the army, there's people that I think when you feel that you've hit the pinnacle of your life,
Yeah.
It's going to be bad for you if you're still alive at the other end, because you're going to wonder what it's all about.
Yeah.
So one thing that you mentioned past the army, and my question's probably all over the place a little bit, but I'll let you keep me on track, is that martial arts was something where I saw old people, wearing red belts, like in judo or whatever, big 10th dans, and people had respect for them, and they were part of the community still, and they held the key to the history of what you were doing as young people. And they couldn't do it like young people, but their mind was so far down the track, and if they gave people the understanding of what they knew, and young bodies could achieve what those skilled and experienced minds could pass on, that to me just was a perfect way for humans to be. Your body's breaking down, but your mind is incredibly advanced. All you need is people to understand that you can pass that information on, so that the younger generation can achieve great things, and we keep helping each other do that. So I think that was the big thing for me, realizing that no matter what's happening, as I get older and as my body breaks down, I'm simply going through the same process as others that have come before me. And it's going to be more about leadership, direction, holding to what's important, guidance, and creating leaders. And then once you're a leader, then you need to create more leaders, and then it just moves along and along. So it's very different to what I originally expected, but I think that original mindset when I was young has really held strong for me, that I've always seen myself far beyond the things that I've achieved, because of that feeling of, as I get older, I'm sort of moving along, and there's a place for me when I'm an old man. I think our modern society, we tend to have this throw-out society, including people. So these older people, off they go to a home and things like that. It's just, to me, it makes no sense. And there needs to be more community. So that's another thing with resilience. There's two things that science has sort of put its finger on that can say, well, two factors that will determine longevity with life. One is smoking, tobacco. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, and do you survive it, not survive it? It comes down to genetics and different things. But tobacco smoking is proven to shorten your life. And some people it may not, but majority of people, it will have an effect on your life. And the next thing is social connection. So you lose that social connection. So that's why for us, I can see why veteran suicide, a lot of that is just a breakdown in social connection. And I don't think the answer is the RSL club, playing the pokies and having a drink with your mates. I think the answer is being productive, and that's why the combatives program, we've got this civilian element that works with the community. Veterans can be a part of it. People who are wanting to join the Defence Force can be a part of it. And it's sort of an ongoing thing that there's this mentorship from the young to the old. And the army is just in the mix if you want it to be. And but the army is the reflection of the culture that I once believed in, which was, like I say, it's very different. It was about accountability as an individual. If you made a mistake, you got done for that, and that's just how it was. It wasn't like, one person's made a mistake, well, we need to create a new rule for everybody now, because because people find it hard to, or struggle to confront somebody. So this is the thing. You've got to be able to keep people on track and have consequences for mistakes, but consequences doesn't mean destroy people. It means build them up. Like there's a consequence so that they become more efficient, stronger, more capable.
Yeah.
So I think that was the difference in that army of old. Than what I see today. Today I just see, you know, it recently happened, you know, where, some people from special forces, they may have done allegedly. This is so we are going to take a citation off everyone. So first of all, maybe you should wait until there's, people are found guilty.
Yeah.
And then secondly, when they are found guilty, take it off them.
Yeah.
It's why this whole, it's a bizarre thing, and I think it's just this whole attitude of participation trophies.
Yes.
So just like a participation trophy, it doesn't really mean much. So we'll take it off you all as well.
Yeah.
And for the guys who actually fought, maybe for guys who just, I happened to be there and I got this.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. But for guys who actually died,
yes,
and their families have lost their loved ones, and other guys who actually fought on the battlefield and with honour, that is the reason we've won it.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So, I mean, thankfully, the new defence minister has just reversed that. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a long-winded answer.
No, that's okay.
I don't even know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
But I definitely had a rant. Yeah.
No, well, I understand that because I was watching that and I was just thinking, I was angry about it, but I didn't feel like I knew enough about it to be able to like speak up about it. But I was watching a lot of the stuff. Is it Heston? No.
Oh yeah, Heston Russell.
Yeah. I was watching a lot of his stuff and just seeing what was going on with that. So, and I thought he spoke quite well on a lot of the stuff that he was putting out. So I was kind of using that to kind of gauge where things were going with it. So,
he spoke well on the subject. I did an interview, I think, for 2GB on the subject, and once I saw others were jumping on to say their piece with it, then that was it. I didn't need to be in the mix. So I got my, I stepped back from it. I only feel like I've got to say something when if no one else is standing up, and if others are doing a good job at it, then I just try to keep out of the way and not create too much noise in that space. So there was plenty of people getting good leverage, and also the public, generally speaking. I mean, you're always going to have people that totally don't agree with you. And you always find people, no matter what you did, what shirt you put on for the day, what haircut you got, there's always people that don't like that. There's always going to be people that don't like you. Fair enough, because there's heaps of people I don't like, so I'm not going to change my mind. So, I don't, I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm here to say, this is what I'm doing. If you want to be on board, fine. If you don't, do your own thing. But for me, I'm just about people being free to do what they do, as long as they're not, damaging other people's freedoms to do what they want to do.
That's it. So I'm going to move on to the next question, because I've got I've actually got stuff that's kind of follows up on what we've just spoken about. So, but that's a little bit further down the questions.
No problem.
So one thing that really drew me to kinetic fighting, and which was why I was really determined to train. And at first off, I listened to you on a podcast and I thought, wow, who is this person? You were so inspiring. And I thought, this is going to sound creepy. I need to get close to this person, not like, you know what I mean? Like,
no bawling rabbits or anything. It's fine. Yeah, I get it.
Find out, more about this person, because I had the conversation with fighting, and I thought I need to know more about this, because I've actually had a few scares of my own, and And I wanted to be able to defend myself. But in saying that, though, I'd seen like a lot of YouTube videos and things like that where, you know, there was self-defense and there was martial arts, but people got to tap out, right? And I didn't even really know much about martial arts, but I knew that people could tap out. And I thought, for me, I was worried that if I was ever in a situation where I might be fighting for my life, because I'd had the wind put up me a couple of times, that there was no tapping out, right? Like if the other person would just keep going, and let's face it, you know, shit hits the fan, I'd be screwed. So, you know, I wouldn't know how to disarm them. I wouldn't know how to get away from them. I wouldn't know how to push them off me due to panic or whatever. And, you know, things like, I really, really wanted to be able to use my body as a weapon. That was important to me. I didn't know how to do that. So, and if I needed to use something, if I didn't have anything on me, I wanted to know how to use that as a weapon, or find something within my surroundings that I could, you know, figure out how to do that. And also go into a zone where I could take action quickly without going into panic and then not being able to figure out what to do. So, and you may not remember me in the kinetic fighting training in Perth, but
no, I remember, yeah.
I'm sure I was the only person who had no idea about martial arts, and the few times I was spinning around on my back looking like a turtle with legs up in the air, like didn't know what I was doing, but I got in there. But you know, there was.
Well, it's the best place to not know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't want to be in the actual situation, not knowing what you're doing.
That's
so
it.
it's about putting you through those unknowns, but in a safe environment.
That's it. And you know, even though I was afraid to hurt someone, and the instructors were absolutely, you guys were so brilliant with showing me how to really like throw my body strength into it and really go for it and have confidence in what I was doing. It really impacted me like big time. And so with that, I'm going to get on to the next question, or this part of the question I want to ask. So when you because this is very much about like the no tapping out thing, right? You got to keep, if the other person's just going to keep going on you, like if you I think it was in 2007 you entered some compounds and there was like Taliban leadership there, for which you were like in hand-to-hand combat situation and ended up strangling a Taliban that was second in command of that region. And tell me if I'm incorrect. So like how did that like change things for you? Like you know, because obviously you were led then to the redevelopment of the close quarter fighting and special forces and co-founding the 2nd Commando Regiment Integrated Combat Centre. So like for me, you know, just more from a normal everyday person, like I didn't want to be in that situation. It was also the trauma of all of a sudden, if I then defended myself and I've got that person there and I'm like thinking, shit, I may have to, you know, I may have to go through with what because if you're like, I had put myself in a situation, if someone came after me, hurt me, I then was able to defend myself, but then I was actually hurting them to a point where they may lose their life. I was actually traumatized by that too. So like, you know, because there's no tapping out, and then sort of how did that, you know, when how did sort of like situations like that, you know, when you were strangling a Taliban, you know, like how did that sort of change things for you?
First of all, I was in the process of creating the program, the new close quarter fighting program, based on my martial arts background.
Yeah.
So I got a very extensive martial arts background, and so I was asked to do it. Like I didn't volunteer for it or anything. I was involved in another part of the Army with the unarmed combat program the Army had at the time.
Yeah.
I was brought in to deal with that, and then there was a critical trade shortage for sergeant commandos, so I got moved straight to 4RAR Commando. And when I got there, they said, "Oh, well, you were doing this there, so you can do it here." That's basically it, you know, like go. And I said, okay.
your experience in martial arts is like, whoa.
Yeah, I've got a lot of experience in martial arts, but
Yeah.
the big thing that I wanted to do was not teach people martial arts. I wanted to teach them their martial art, which is focused around the firearm, focused around,
Yes.
you know, the modern firearms and so on. So that in my mind made sense. Then talking to some very experienced people, more experienced than myself, I wanted to, you know, see how that link would be. And then we worked together on that. And then, but what the critical change of thought was that actual experience, that hand-to-hand experience.
Yeah.
And that made me realize that with all the experience I had, it still felt life and death, and it still was incredibly an incredibly overwhelming sort of sensation with a lot going through your mind. And what I did was basically exactly what I had sort of been exposed to in martial arts training. Now, that initially put me off martial arts. Like I was over it. It was like, I thought it's all bullshit and I'm just going to, you know, just pick up stuff and cave people's heads in and do this and do that. Like it's, I just became very, I think if I hadn't had that sort of, if I hadn't returned to Australia and the fighting kept it going in that period, I don't know where my mind would have ended up. But it was sort of towards the end of my tour. I'd done an extended tour, so I stayed on from the fighting season and stayed over the winter period. So I stayed on, but it was towards the end of that period. And I was coming back to Australia, and there was actually someone asked me to be involved in some martial arts seminars. That changed my mind again, got me enjoying myself in martial arts again. But I also realized that martial arts didn't let me down. They just, they gave me what I'd trained for. So if you think that submission is the ultimate, and a lot of now, you know, so much jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is such a thing now, and everyone's jumping around doing it these days, that people do think that submission is the, you know, is the ultimate. But if someone doesn't care that their leg's broken or their arm's broken, you're not holding them anymore. You know, that limb's gone. And if they've got a mindset that they want to kill you, you're going to suffer shock when what you have previously thought was the end of that encounter was when you have that lock on and it breaks and they keep trying to kill you, you are going to be in shock. Simple as that, because you've not encountered it before and your mind is not in that space. So that's probably the biggest difference for us now with combatives, is understanding that what happens after a lock is actually used for its purpose, to break a limb. You've got to still control the person. The fight's not over. It's just, it's the mindset that's different. So a lot of techniques that we use, you could easily recognize it as Sambo, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's the application that's different. And but we use, you know, the modern sporting game to develop the experience and the body, natural body movement and so on. But our objectives are different. And again, I'm watching other armies jump on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for instance, and, you know, you can, you know, you already see that you get caught up in the game. And as soon as you get, even classic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when we first started in the 90s, was all about Vale Tudo. It was all about fighting people, you know, no holds barred fighting. And competition in Jiu-Jitsu wasn't that important. It's just something you did to develop your game. What was important was fighting in a cage or a ring. And winning for Jiu-Jitsu, you know, the concept of bringing someone to the ground. So now a lot of people, most people are not interested in mixed martial arts that do Jiu-Jitsu, or aren't interested in self-defense, but they think they're doing self-defense. So they're in the same boat as other martial arts have fallen into in the past. They were about something and they became about something else, you know. So it's the same. I see it just go around. And you know, there's plenty of very senior people, Gracie family members that are going, hey, whoa, this is, you're missing the point. And just sport's such a big thing, you know, it's a great way of promoting your martial art, but it's also, it will define your martial art. So you know, look at judo. Judo has a huge amount of, like, so much to judo, but it's defined by the sport. So people kind of go, oh, I do judo with this, and then this is jiu-jitsu, and this is, well, a lot of them have crossover, but it's defined by the sport.
Yeah. Well, I found, because I didn't have any martial arts experience whatsoever. So for me going in there, I remember I was super, like, I got in there, I was like, ah! And, you know, I'm sure I was the only one going in, hugging everyone, and like, I was just really excited to be there. Everyone's just staring there like, and I'm like, okay. So, but everyone just knew their shit big time and were, you know, had a lot of experience in martial arts. So for me, it was very cool to be around people that were so experienced in that, but also who took it very seriously as well. It wasn't full of fluff, so to speak. So, and I loved the mindset behind kinetic fighting. I love the way, there was so many things where I'd sort of, because I'd researched, you know, other martial arts and what I wanted. But when I saw how you guys have put this together, I thought, yes, I can actually do this. This would actually, I felt like it would help me save my life, because it took it like a step further for me. Yeah.
And it's principle based, so it allows people that do have experience to apply their experience within those principles. People that don't, there's technique and fundamentals that are well and proven with the history of what we do that work. So regardless of experience, there's always it's just a different way of thinking. And it feeds into a whole range of things, but we've got to sort of tackle also just the way people learn and expectations. So, you know, I could sit here and think, well, hang on, the number one thing that people should be learning is predictors to violence. They should be learning about you know, how to avoid it in the first place, because a lot of people just don't see the trouble they're getting into. And if they could see the body language and what was going on, they could just get out earlier. But people have a preconceived idea of what self-defense is too. So you almost got to do it in a way where you capture people's attention, you give them good skill sets, and then develop the other skill sets around it. And that's just a time thing. So that's something else that I noticed when we with the Army program, is you realise I've only got a week with people. I can't turn you into a martial artist in a week. So what can I give you in a very short time that is highly functional under stress? And that's you know, that's what has to be remembered here. But the main thing is the ability to survive. It's, you know, as a soldier caught in unarmed combat, you never really want to be caught in that situation. So it's really about surviving and how you help somebody else, how you help yourself. And if you do have more skills, what to do with those skills. So it's just a different way of getting around it and not pretending that, you know, we touch on a few techniques and you can go off and take on the world. We're actually teaching you the reality of violence. And an introduction to what violence is, not to be afraid of it, to treat it like fire, something that you learn to work with. So it's just a tool. It's part of the human condition. That's the other thing too, is to just take people away from believing that, you know, violence can be eradicated. It can't. You know, it's a tool that's used by all forms of government. All, you know, used by people in different ways. And the best thing you can do is teach people not to fear it, how to recognize it, and how not to be intimidated by it, and recognize levels of violence, so that you know when you're safe, and you know some people are just, even in negotiation, just in discussions and talking with people, can be intimidated by somebody. It's like, well, if I'm not concerned physically about what's going to play out here, I'm not going to be intimidated by the conversation we have.
Yes.
So then I can hold to my guns and have the conversation I need to have, or should be having. It's just, and we all go through it. I mean, I went through it as a young person. So it's why I took up martial arts. It's, and the way I feel it towards bullies is why, I want to show people how to deal with them. But I can tell you a lot of things that I've shown to people is wrong. And also, I understand what bullies don't sort of react to. And soft dealings with bullies doesn't really do much. I mean, they wouldn't be a bully if you could just negotiate with them. They would be then a reasonable person.
I know that. I was bullied a lot at school, so I exactly that.
They're not the most logical, rational people. And that's also, a lot of bullies have suffered being bullied. Or violence at home, different things. So there's a whole range of things there, and that's the language they understand. Sometimes you've got to speak to them in their own language. So it just depends.
That makes perfect sense.
But the main thing that I want is, if people can feel safe, I don't want an army of people going, this is the way forward. There's going to be the warriors that this is what they want to do, and they want to help other people with it. Fine. Absolutely fine. But generally speaking, I just want people to learn about it, so that they can get on with their lives. Because I think fear is something that just destroys people's confidence to get on with the things they want to achieve in life. And interpersonal violence is something we have an irrational fear for. Like, we'll go out and drive the car, which is the number one thing that's going to kill you. Like, the thing that is most likely you're going to end your life is you getting out on the road and driving a car. Right. It's but you won't think twice about it. But if there's a sociopath killed a couple of people in the city, likely to not come across them at all, or have anything to do with them, people are freaking out. And it's irrational, but it's because it's interpersonal violence. It's a different thing, and it affects us as people differently. So it's something we've really definitely got to get a grip of, so that we can get on with things.
I agree. I like that.
I mean, if I didn't have to deal with violence, then I could have been an astronaut or something, But violence dominated my situation. So, okay, no worries. Here I am. This is what I'm good at.
Well, I'm grateful.
No problems. But the more I see people like yourself say, it's great, but you're doing what you do. That's great. I'd rather see that than, I'm not trying to have some sort of cult of millions of martial artists or sort of thing. It's just like, come do your thing, feel good about yourself and your situation and where violence plays its part in the world, and just have a reality check, and then get on with it. Get on with whatever it is that you're doing in life. And that's it. That's great.
It's super empowering, that's for sure. I was pumped afterwards. I actually did those 2 full days with a migraine, and I was pumped. Like, just, I didn't even care. Like, I just was in there, loved it. And I actually felt sad afterwards. I thought, I don't want to go home. I want to keep doing more days of this. I love this.
No problem.
It was awesome. So I really loved it. So
Once we get over COVID, then, well, at the moment we've got classes running, but a lot of my instructors in different states are obviously running courses.
Yeah.
But yeah, as COVID starts to move, then we'll be able to get people together again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my goal is, once I've got over some medical issues and other stuff as well, is like, my eye is on the prize for grey belt, because I had promised myself back when I did that, all I wanted to do was to get to grey belt, because I felt like, one, it was a goal, but also I really felt like I wanted to learn more and really be as fluent at it as I could, so that I didn't have to think. I wanted to be able to do it without thinking. So I kind of just knew I had my own back. That's,
Yeah. Oh, look, and yeah, there's nothing you can do about what happens to you, you know, what your body's putting you through, except your response to it. So staying positive like that is great to hear, because you've got objectives that you want to still achieve that then will drive you forward to achieve them. And one of them might be the grey belt, and it's probably 40 other things linked to that, but it's great to hear that that's one of the things. And that's why I think it's also important not to sacrifice what needs to be done for those things, because I think that's another thing that happens in martial arts when people turn it into a sort of, you know, a Mac Dojo, just a process, is they make it easier. You know, it's like the whole idea is to rise up to the challenge. And so if you water down the challenge, then for people like yourself, where you're saying, well, hang on, I've got to get myself back to this level to do this, you've just taken away a reason for doing it. And if you can just do nothing and get everything, which seems to be what you know, a lot of young people think is the right thing, then we're just going to end up, nothing's going to be worth anything.
Well, each step that I'm taking at the moment, like it's always in the back of my mind, grey belt. So how do I get to here? So I'm a little bit closer to here. Step. So it's baby steps, but it's working. So I'm good.
Yeah, good, excellent.
So I feel
and
good.
One day I'm sure you'll do it.
Oh, I'm going to.
Excellent.
So I really wanted to ask you about like staying focused and finding some inner peace. This is what this next question is about. So like when you're in the midst of it, like explosions and like bullets flying past you, in situations when you're like in hand-to-hand combat, like the soldiers that you're serving with and close to, they're being killed, or in other, you know, regiments or your own. And because it's not just soldiers being killed, right? Like there's massive casualties with limbs getting blown off and other injuries. And, you know, how do you calm yourself when you need to and like stay focused and, you know, find some inner peace if you can find that, you know, because this isn't normal life, right? So, and like, how is like morale for yourself and those around you when that is going on, and being able to help them find some peace, you know, or to be able to calm themselves down so they can stay focused? And
well, I think there's two parts to that.
yeah.
For the first thing in staying focused in the moment is that you have a job to do. And you need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So if you just freeze and you don't get on with what you need to do to solve this overall problem, then more people are going to die or be hurt. So it keeps you very focused on being part of the solution. And the more senior you are, the less people that do your job. And so there's one platoon sergeant. If you don't do what a platoon sergeant's meant to do, then the platoon's in trouble. And that's why it's an important position. There's one team commander per team, and then a team 2IC. So it's kind of like that. It just carries on, and it's all about, well, there's a problem here, and to stop this being a problem, we need to do something about it. And it's the same if people are killing your friends, then you've got to do something about them killing, and that's normally kill them.
Yeah.
So, you're fighting to stop it becoming worse.
Yes.
And and the initial reasons for being there, they're typically the government's reasons for being there.
Yeah.
Now, something may happen that has you go, well, I need to be a part of this, but you don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
You don't know, so there's the government's reasons, but when you're on the ground, it's the person next to you. That's what's important.
Yeah.
And as long as that's the culture you have, and you have the culture to support and fight for each other, and then that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
That sort of keeps you functioning, if you like.
Yeah.
As far as peace, that's something that I still work on,
Yeah.
So there's a lot more now. There's more space between the war or my participation in the war, and now, and also the war in general, because even when I stopped participating, I still had friends dying in it.
Yeah.
And I thought the war might end with me finishing, but actually it was worse because your friends were still dying.
Yeah.
And then you felt guilty because you weren't there to help.
Yeah.
You weren't, you weren't still putting yourself on the line, if you like.
Yeah.
So then you felt guilty, and this could be another thing that affects veterans, right? And I say that because I don't have suicidal thoughts, so I'm guessing what's causing suicidal thoughts for people.
Yeah.
But I can understand it, if that makes sense. I can understand it. So I think there's different things. Martial arts, definitely one of them. Being focused, still being part of the army, still being part in a way of capability and having a part to play is very calming. Yeah. And then that's where that's why the combatives and the being involved in that side and the kinetic stuff and its linkage, like it doesn't have to be a day-to-day thing, but it's linkage to the army. I think that's very important. And so that's something that we're really investigating a lot now, because I think this could be very helpful for veterans, and not just veterans, soldiers who discharge from the army. I mean, it's a big thing to do. Like, obviously it's a massive thing to go to war, but even just to be in the army, for a lot of people, that's, they may be parachuting, they may be doing all these things, rock climbing and whatever it is they're doing, their mateship and how many friends they've had might be the biggest group of friends they've ever had in their life. All these different things, they belong to something, they put this uniform on. So it can mean a lot to them, even if they haven't been to war. So all of a sudden they're sort of having this, suffering the effects of leaving. So that's why I think, that's where I see the community of what we're doing is very important. And so that's why I guess we're looking at the different elements to this, and the way we've been going. Like you said, you mentioned grey belt. People probably, what's that? So the structure and the belt system and these different things, which initially I had no interest in us having, but then you realize, well, you need a sense of progress, especially when you're trying to create subject matter experts. So the fundamentals of what we're doing can be done in a short time, but for people to be experts where they can find solutions to future problems, then they need to have a huge amount of information to draw from. So that's sort of why the program is the way it is. It's really for developing future subject matter experts. So, whereas getting yourself squared away with self-defense, understanding principles, some techniques, drills, some pressure testing, some stress, inoculation,
Yeah.
and then predictors to violence, to how to avoid trouble in the first place. Once you've got some of that squared away, you're going to do fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wish to keep going in it, then that's where we need to have, I guess, an indicator of who is an expert. And in the army, what tends to happen if you don't have these indicators, it's whoever the highest rank is that's qualified tends to be the loudest voice in the group. And quite often it could be one of the lower ranks that actually is the most experienced. So we've got to identify that experience outside of the rank structure.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. This is cool. I'm really enjoying this.
Good. Excellent.
I wanted to, this is, I guess, a little bit deep, but I wanted to know if you'd be able to share like a particular experience that like heavily impacted you, where, and you spoke a little bit before about this actually, kind of where you felt like you lost a little bit of faith about what you believed in, or, you know, like questioned yourself a little bit. So, you know, whether that be, say, in purpose or spirituality, like, and now, like, looking back at that, like, how you appreciate having experienced that, if you did appreciate experiencing it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so there's a few, I guess, there's a few things there. I guess for me, you bounce around a lot trying to understand things. And probably the first thing is just dealing with, you know, evil. I mean, if you're doing something all the time and exposed to something, and you just, you know, it's hard to comprehend the evil that humans are capable of.
Yeah.
And so I felt very much being consumed by that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't understand. I was thinking, well, how can you look into the abyss, but not be sort of engulfed by it?
Yeah.
So that was something that consumed a lot of my time and thinking. And that's where you've got to be about a higher purpose.
Yeah.
You've got to affiliate with something that makes sense to you, and you've got to be about something that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't need to be religious. That could just be, you know, an objective or a human endeavor. Yeah. But I think that's one of the big things, is being part of something that's bigger than you, that carries on after you.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is, for me, you know, we all get this sense of understanding our mortality.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we can be immortal if we're part of something that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
And then we've added to that thing. I think what's letting people down is they have this, you know, everything's about you. And then when everything is about you, then, well, I don't want to die because that's, you know, unfair to me, because everything's about me. Well, you're going to die. It's as simple as that. So we ignore it. We pretend it's not going to happen. And I think what changes that is seeing a lot of death and understanding that it could be around the corner. So, you know, going through illness, or going through others going through illness, or just whatever it is that makes you realize that we're all mortal, I think can have us also reassess the importance of being a part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think that's probably a way to, like, I can start to feel comfortable that, you know, after I die, there's a legacy. It doesn't have to be the legacy that you created. But and I work hard not to be. I work hard to recognize people that have done a lot of work before me. So even though I created the names of what we're doing in the army now, and the way we do it, and so on. I mean, I was still influenced by others and their example.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very important to recognize their hard work as well. And then the people that come after me then won't just discard myself when if I become irrelevant to that time and moment. They'll see it as a continuum of we're now at this point, and because we're using robots or we're using laser beams or whatever, we need to slightly change and adapt what we're doing. Then so be it. You know, we need to. So it's just part of the continuum. And then and what that has done for us is it's had, because this has become an important part of what we think about the whole program.
Yeah.
Is that it's all of the unarmed combat that's come before, and we're still defining what that is, unarmed combat, because there's a thing called military self-defense. So it's like, you know, we're defining how this looks, you know, but there's people that have come before us that just worked away in the background, wanting for the similar outcome than what we're achieving, but it didn't happen. But it's those people that strove for that that could have affected a commander that made a decision on what we're doing today, because they were exposed to it then. Now, someone may not be able to put their finger on that to say, hey, here's the link, but it could have been. And those people were part of that capability. So it's very important to recognize that. And then you create lineage, and then we go back further and thank families of people that are no longer here, and go right back to, and now that's had us investigate right back to World War One, where we're in that space, where we see it as sort of the beginning of what we're doing. So as the Australian Army, if you like, we've had wars before that, but they were pretty much as states and part of the British Empire. And then as we, you know, the Second Boer War, Australia became a country. And then World War One was sort of that first war where we headed off as a country. I mean, the Second Boer War, we headed off as militia belonging to states, and literally became a country in South Africa, while troops were in South Africa. But this time it's World War One was sort of that initiation. And that's always been seen around the Anzac landings. So, you know, all these things come together, and we just link into that. It's a big, powerful thing. And the best thing to do is be a part of that and link into that power, rather than pushing against it or trying to, you know. It's not about, So I think resilience is about learning that there are other people in the world who are also important, and defining, like, who's important to you is different to someone else. So that's not saying that everyone's got to be important to everyone, but you know, you get to pick who's important, and you get to, but be a part of something bigger than yourself. Be a part of something that's contributing to others, and that will help you, I think, deal better with where you're at. And
I agree. This next
I don't
question.
know. Did I answer that?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good.
This next question is, I noticed, I like this quote too, but also I've seen that you put it on your Instagram, the Jordan Peterson quote, like, you should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then learn to control it. And I reckon we could probably just do like a whole podcast on that, but episode on that. But yeah, like, so asking you, like, when you, you know, what's your thoughts on this? Like, when you create the monster within you, Paul, you know, and become that, like, how do you then control it?
Yeah, well, okay. So, right. Good question. So I didn't exactly go about to create a monster. So it happened. So due to some, you know, some difficult times that I went through younger,
Yes.
when I was younger, I developed mechanisms, and I developed a sort of real hatred towards violence that made me very violent. Like if someone was aggressive towards me, I could be probably overreact to that aggression and so on. So I had this, I didn't, that created, that came, and it actually is, I probably got through Afghanistan well because I already had these mechanisms to deal with things. I think what let me down was more people on our side, was people not standing their ground when they're in positions of looking after other people. And that's what I, that's the thing that would affect me the most, is just people doing the wrong thing with their subordinates and so on. So controlling that monster has been something that I've always had to do. And I think it's important that I agree with that term. We need to just, whether you say monster, because in my head I see this monster thing as a bit different, but definitely drive, definitely just no bullshit, take no bullshit type of thing, opposite to modern society, opposite to what people are saying. And you can only be what we are right now when things are really, really good. Like, if I'm starving, I don't get to choose to be a vegan. If I don't have any food in my stomach for a week, I'll eat anything. I'll eat a rat. And if people haven't starved, they won't know what that feeling is like. So, when you see what it's like, for people to starve, when you see what it's like that the meaning of life for people is simple, it's survive. It's nothing else. There's no other thought except I need to live this day and not die, and I would love to see my family not die today. Like, that's the meaning of life. When you have time to contemplate those things, life's pretty good. When you can choose to be things, life's pretty good. So that's the thing. And it's not always going to be this way. It always swings around. And it's not always going to be like this, and it's going to get tough again. And so people need to be ready for that. And people need to understand that, again, it's not about you. It's about everyone. So so controlling the greater good, don't do harm. Have some sort of, try to have some set rules in your head. It's a struggle. I was a very black and white person, and then trying to understand the world and so forth, and then oh no, the world's grey. Oh, is it? Well, if you tell me it's grey, then I'm very black and white about it not being black and white. So it's just it can just get a little confusing. But I think the best thing is just know what's important to you, and stick with it. Don't be swayed. Don't be concerned about the opinions of others that are against your deep beliefs, because who cares? Why would you be concerned about that? So and same, like I've seen people suffer the consequences of a whole range of things. Yet today we seem to be like, if someone says a word that you don't like, they shouldn't be able to say that. Well, they shouldn't be able to bloody bash your face in either. And they shouldn't be able to do a lot of things that people do. So, you got to keeps things in sort of perspective. I guess it comes down to the internet. I think it comes down to algorithms and people finding just things that support their opinion, because that's what these things are generated for, social media. And I think on the internet, that's where people are sort of having their cracks at each other. So it's all nice and safe, and away you go. And but I think it doesn't take much for that to become physical and real. And people realizing what reality is.
Well, that's actually, that leads on well to my next question that I was going to ask you, actually. So I guess, like, I'm super passionate about, like, not replicating people's mindset, and even having my clients not replicating like someone else's mindset, like more about creating, I suppose, their own inner compass and confidence, right? Rather than trying to base it on someone else's, and then it's not coming from within them then, right? And so, like, how has like martial arts built your confidence and influenced how you live your own life and created your own inner confidence and powerful resilience, whether that be spiritual or...
Yep. It started with the example of others. And then answering, and it's finished with your own experiences. So it starts with the example of others, and then you can have some very senior people write information down and pass on information. And the way you look at that information from when you're a beginner to where you are today, the same words are there, but the way you look at it is different. And that's through your own experience. So the biggest thing is experience. And I think as a human being, I mean, if you ask me how much money did you spend on a particular experience, you know, I probably can't answer it. But if you ask me how much I paid for my car, or car's a hard one because it's half experience, half product. But you know, if you ask how much you paid for a product, you could probably name pretty much each thing. You go, that was about this, that was about that. But if you said, hey, that trip to Italy, how much was that? You're probably like, oh, well, the flight was this, and we did. It's because we just love to have experiences. You know, we're a product of these experiences, the exposure to life. So that's to me is the be all and end all, is just to experience as much as possible, experience life. And it was the example of masters that came before, and then experience for myself. So, you know, this is what it feels like to get kicked. Oh, great. It's not good. This is what it feels like to get punched. This is getting choked. This is a throw. Experience, and then learn and then understand it from a different angle, different perspective. You know, you look at it from a student's perspective that's entering, and then you're seeing the instructors, and then eventually you'll see it from the instructor's perspective, and then you'll need to understand how to take someone from student to instructor, and it goes on and on and on. It never ends, and there's obviously a whole bunch of stuff that I'm yet to find out about as I get more and more experience. At the moment, I've got 40 years around martial arts. I'm sure it's going to be different with 50 years or 60 years. So, you know, I'm interested to experience that experience. I'm interested to, you know, I look forward to what's to come next. But still being present in where you are today. So that's probably something else too, is actually stop and just learn a sense of taking in what's happening right now. And that's probably something that I failed to do for a very long time. I was always on to the next thing and keep driving rather than pausing for a second just to appreciate where you are now. So that's probably something.
Because especially too, like, if your mind, and you know, this goes for anyone really, you know, like when your mind is running fairly flat out, and you've got a lot of stuff going on, it's just really easy just not to like kick back and just kind of appreciate and sit back and go, wow, this is where I'm at. You know what I mean? I for myself, I sort of had got pretty slack with things like that until like last year, until the health stuff came up, and it knocked me for a six, like big time. And I was like, shit, like I'm bedridden. Like I couldn't listen to podcasts, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't talk on the phone, nothing. And I was just like, wow, all I had was my own mind.
Yeah.
I just thought, I didn't like it.
No. Well, you definitely are going to learn to find out about yourself.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. It's interesting you say that, because learning to actually like yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive thing, to actually go, no, you don't.
Yeah. It has actually taught me that. I like myself so much more than I did before, and appreciate myself and appreciate my body so much more, and so many other things, like, you know, when I was able to sort of be able to walk properly, just to be able to go and sit in the backyard and just sit there looking at the chooks, which would be absolutely boring as batshit for someone else. But to just go and do that, and just to be able to be outside, see the sun, the, you know, whatever it was, I was just like, wow, this was supposed to happen for me, right? Yeah.
Well, it did. So it
did. So
that's where you're at. So it's interesting, and that could be something that really makes you appreciate things in the future. You know, and it could actually set you up to appreciate something that maybe if it didn't happen to you, you may not get the same out of it.
Yeah, I feel like that too. So it's also helped me adapt to situations as well. Like, you know, I wasn't expecting that to happen. I was going on the road, you know what I mean, going to do all this epic, and then and so it's really taught me a lot about adapting, you know, to adversity and challenges and stuff like that. So I'm super grateful for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a good outcome, is to grow through adversity.
Yeah.
And I think adversity is something, it's a human condition.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that can make us stronger, or it can destroy us.
Yes.
And we're all going to suffer from something. And maybe multiple times. But it's the growth through it that is going to make us a stronger person. And that's the strength that you only get through experiencing. Or through experience. So if all your experiences are good, one day you're going to be a very sad person.
Because when shit hits the fan, you're going to go, oh, I've not done this before.
So it's good to hear that. It's good to hear, I guess, you know, what's come of it. You at the other end it's very positive.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. I also wanted to talk to you, Paul, about some projects that you're working on now, because I have seen on Instagram and on Facebook, like your close quarters shooting and the high fidelity training. And how do I pronounce the name of the army? Is it like Chiron?
Oh yeah, you said exactly right.
I'm sharing a little bit about those projects and what's next for you, because like I see all this and I'm like, oh, I so wish I could just go over there and have a look at all this stuff.
One day one day I'm sure Australia will learn to deal with COVID, and we'll get on with doing things. But high fidelity training is a new company that the KEF Group co-owns with a couple other companies. And the high fidelity training facility is where I am right now, just in my office within it.
Yeah, I
And
yeah,
so it's a just looks like a Pinky Blinders sort of office, you know. So it's nice.
yeah,
It's a big facility, and we've got everything combat, armored, unarmed, armed, firearms, weapons, all very different sort of equipment and training capability. Working at heights, a tower, stunt work. There's medical training. Just a huge amount of different things, and that's all about bringing high fidelity to reality-based training. So a lot of people just really work in low fidelity training, but high fidelity is bringing realism to something so that you feel that you're experiencing the actual effect, and then we've got the ability to measure those effects. So it's just I guess it's a collaboration of a whole range of things. Same as the Chiron suits. I've been involved with the Chiron Global for several years now. And basically because their suits allow me to hit things and shoot them up close with man-marking munition, which you wouldn't be able to do normally, and strike them with actual weapons, you know, metal. And ram their heads into walls and stuff. So things that, you know, it allows me to actually do what I'm going to do on the day. And then I'm experiencing that, and I'm, you know, off I go. And that's the whole thing about entering that high fidelity space. And that's just a part of it. It's about linking it to a whole range of different things. But it's a very exciting project. We've also just recently, we had role players working with the Army, and that's something that we're working in that space at the moment with opposing force capability, and that's also an important element to high fidelity training. If you're just dealing with people that are your own people, plain enemy, it's you're not exposing your people to a group they don't know, tactics they're not familiar with, and you won't get the best out of, and scientifically proven you just won't get the best out of it, which is why people do competition. If you just rely on wrestling in your own space with your own people you see every day, it's not the same as the effect that it has on people going to a competition where they deal with other people they don't know. Who are trying to win. So, you know, it's very. So there's that side of it. And then we're starting a membership here, so that starts next week, and we have a membership where people can come in and do everything that we have on the offer, and they can do their unarmed fighting, armed fighting, weapons fighting.
That's cool.
Running through the house with their gel blasters and so on. So Western Australia and Queensland, you're welcome to do those things. Every other state, the gel blaster toy is considered a firearm and they can't use it. But Queensland and Western Australia is fine. And then we've got a few things that, because of the linkage to the movies and so forth, we can give people some experiences they normally wouldn't have. So it's moving into an interesting space, and there'll be a lot more coming out about it. We've also got so it's an interesting time. There's a bit of growth happening business wise, and there are things that support Kinetic, but and Kinetic is carrying on with what it's doing, and growing. We're now the New Zealand Army is now licensed the program and is implementing the Australian Army Combatives program into the New Zealand Army. So it's a busy time.
Yeah, it sure is. That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, I know that we're probably running short on time for you here, so but I wanted to just ask you two last questions.
Yep.
And one was, like we've covered quite a lot today in regards to building resilience, but is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like, whether that be life lessons or something that you feel that you would like to share in regards to being able to adapt to situations, whether that be mentally, physically, spiritually, when you're facing adversity or some?
Yeah, I would say, look, for me, you've got to find the thing that triggers your own motivation.
Yeah.
You can't rely on other people to motivate you.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't do a lot of. I'm not a motivator.
Yeah.
I work with motivated people.
Yeah.
So if you become motivated, people take an interest in you, and the right people take an interest in you. Yeah. Unmotivated people attract the poorer qualities of others. Like you can get people that say, hey, it's so easy if you do my program. Hey, this is so easy to send money and you'll be, or they go to a function, they're motivated for the day and then they're back. You've got to take a hold of yourself and just get on with, well, what is it you're going to do? What is this it? Are you going to be happy when you're sitting in bed like you did, where you're sitting in bed and you can only hear your own mind? Yeah. You don't want your mind saying, really? Is this it?
Yeah.
Really? All those things you're going to do, and you just thought that's going to be another time, and this is it? This is, you do not want those voices in your head. Yeah. You want to be like, what haven't I done? Like, seriously, this is a great break. This is like, okay, let's have a rest, whatever. It's I mean, I'm probably being a little bit sort of jovial about it, but what I'm saying is, don't leave questions to be answered. Yeah. Even if you do shit and it fails, and we do heaps of shit that fails, you deal with more failures than you do successes. Yeah. The more successful people are, the more failures they probably had. Yeah. So they have definitely learned to deal with failure. Yeah. So success is the ability to deal with failure. Yes. Because you won't be successful if the first failure knocks you over, because you've got a shitload more coming your way. Yeah. And you need to be self-motivated to get through that. And then what will happen is you'll start to attract the right sort of people, people who want to help you in the right path, because you're motivated. They want to help you with getting somewhere with that motivation. Yeah, yeah. So that's a little bit different, I think. So now I've got several mentors that incredibly clever people who are very successful, but we've sort of come in contact with each other, and they mentor me. They give me advice when I ask, and they just check on me and see how things are going. That's the sort of people you want around, and they're not interested in people who need to be picked up all the time. So you've got to pick yourself up, and if you don't, you'll just be. No one's going to come along and reach down and because they're not going to be able to find you. You're just going to be with masses of others. It's when you're up and you're trying to be successful that someone sees that, and then they can grab you and help you. Yes. So maybe that's probably what I would say.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. But I even found for myself when I experienced brain trauma, and it was like, went from like, had life by the balls type thing. I was super full on, and then they're not. And it was interesting. It was very interesting, like who was available to me to support me at that time and who wasn't as well. So I guess I used to share my energy around a fair bit, helping a lot of people. But then also I found that kind of the people that was sort of maybe just using me up for my energy so I could, you know, to get them places. They were like, oh, all the best, see ya. And then I think the other people that really showed up for me, you know, because they knew that I had a lot of grunt left in me and I could absolutely get through this. And they just said, anything you need, Mandy, we've got your back. So it was really nice to be able to just say, hey, I'm having a shitty day, but I'm going to make the best of it. And they could just help me rise, because I didn't want to complain. All I wanted was to maybe
just
find
someone
a
to hear
solution
you.
for the day to help me. I could just, and so that was, for me, that was really, it also gave me a lot more clarity on the people that I had in my life and that I had been attracting, the ones that were there for me, and I like really got to understand their most beautiful qualities, and I thought, I want more of these people in my life. And because I'd been there for a lot of people like that in their lives, and I was like, yes, I love this is so amazing, and I've just valued it so much. So
that's where, like, quality over quantity. That's, you know, you can have so many people in your life, but, you know, they're there because everything's powering along, going well, and they just want to, you know, they're not there because of you, they're there because of just what's happening. And then when times are tough, you'll find who your true friends are.
That's been an incredible lesson, and that's another thing I'm super grateful for a lot of things, actually. It's just so and actually through Kinetic Fighting, when I did that training a couple of years ago, I met some really amazing people in there, and I've actually stayed really good friends with them, and they've been super helpful to me during that period as well. Like just so a lot of really awesome stuff came from that.
Good, excellent.
So what I did want to ask was, you're on social media. Is there anywhere where you know, because I'm going to put your social media links up there and stuff like that. Is there anywhere where you would prefer people to reach out to you or follow you at the moment, or?
I think I'm on the socials, you know, like Instagram and Facebook. We've got a website, you know, kineticfighting.com.au. But if people want to reach out, probably contact us through the email and go through like info. At actually it's info at KEF Group. KEFgroup.com. So that would probably be a good way. Sure, you can message me on Instagram and Facebook and so on. But I have so many messages that it's hard to keep up with responding and seeing them all. Because, you know, I try not to live on social media. So it could be a slow burn in the return of messages. And then people want conversations. I'm literally on social media powering through all the questions, and I'm just working my way down. And then people are responding. It's like, well, I'll get back to that next week, and then I work my way again. So it can be pretty slow burn. But if people need something fairly quickly, then email is good, because we've got people who look after that, and you know, we can get on there and answer it and so on. I'm not. Look, I'm about to say we're not selling anything, but we do sell things, right? But we've got a great book out, The Predictors of Violence. Please feel free to buy it. But you know, we're not selling any sort of snake oil or anything, so there's nowhere I would direct people. So it's kind of like, hey, if you're interested, then jump on, have a look what we're doing. Please do. And another great way is to, honestly, like you did, jump on a course, because you'll have my attention. Like, you know, it'll be at least 4 hours that we're doing something. And you know, it's much easier to talk to people in person get to know people like what we did, and get to know each other and so on, and have a context for that. You know, like you said, you met other people and you've got friendships and stuff, and it's much easier to do that with a community. The other thing too is that would work well is we have a newsletter. So if you go to the website and sign up for the newsletter, because it's high quality. We have a former editor of Blitz Publications, Ben Stone. He looks after that, and it's magazine quality, and there's a whole bunch there, blogs and what's going on and information and so on. And I think it's monthly magazine. And newsletter, and it's a good way to sort of keep up with the community. And probably come along to a course and give it a go.
I would highly recommend that.
Well, that's the best way. Get to meet people. Meeting people is probably the best way to reach out. We do what we can, but we're limited in numbers, and we can only answer so many messages. And but if you want to message me, then feel free. And
this is not one of my questions, but I just wanted to ask, because this popped into my head. You're doing up, like, you have a van that you travel around in? Is it like you did up a van? Is that like your time out?
Oh, it's my mobile office.
So
cool. when the planes didn't want to fly anymore, I still wanted to travel. So I thought, righto, then I'm going to build a mobile office so I can be on the road. And if I get stuck somewhere because of border closures, then I'll just climb into bed and go to sleep. And
I saw it.
Have a feed and do work. And when I was young, there was something I always wanted, was a mobile home when I was young. And I guess when you're so busy, I mean, I used to fly, several times a week, and just always be on the move. And it just COVID, I guess, had everything stop, and it had me rethink, well, hang on, how do I actually want to do a few things? So, so I've been on the road. I've seen that. I think a lot of other people have done the same thing. They've got themselves a van or a mobile home. That's literally the mobile office.
So, well, I just thought that popped into my head, and I thought, I've got to ask about that, because it's still well liked. It's a great piece of kit. I enjoy it. It's just great. Like I find, if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, I pull over, coffee, have some food. If I'm tired, I can just pull over, go to sleep, literally, lay down in a bed and get a few hours sleep, and then get back on the road, and you feel fantastic. So it's just, it really is good. That's it. That's my plans for when I'm back up.
Highly recommend it.
Super cool. Just before the brain trauma thing, I actually that was my plan. I brought a Land Cruiser and was going to deck it out and just live out of it and go on the road and take my coaching on the road and the podcast and do all kinds of cool stuff. And so it's still in the works, like it's sitting there, and I'm like, I can't wait. So it's like, that I was like, yes.
Do it. Do it. Highly recommend it. I haven't not disappointed at all that I did it. Not at all.
That's so good. Cool. Oh, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been super cool. I've absolutely loved it, and
no worries.
Want to acknowledge the incredible work that you're doing, empowering people. It's really cool.
Well, it's good to hear that that's the positive effect of doing that work. So it's good to know. So I'm glad. And it's good to see that you're much better.
Thank you.
It's been a long road for you, so well done.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited, and and I've really, as I said, I've appreciated the support of you guys as well, and it's been very cool. And so, like, the ripple effect of just of the Kinetic Fighting that I went to, like, from that alone, has really, really helped me throughout that time, whether that be connections or, you know, eyeing the prize, like messaging you going, guess what, Paul?
Yeah.
I've done this. You're probably going, Gil, stop messaging.
No, not at all. No problem.
But yeah, it's been, I've really, really valued it and appreciated it.
Yeah. No, and again, it's like those messages, because we've met.
Yeah.
I know who you are. You know, there's a lot of people and fine people, you know, that I'm talking to with messages, but you know, we're yet to meet. So it's I don't. Whereas people I've met that are talking to me, it's like, well, I know who I'm talking to. So yeah, it's good.
That's cool. Oh, thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for coming on today's podcast. That's super, super cool. And yeah, and I really value you, Paul, and just thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you for the time, Andy, and you take care.
Yes, you too.
And have fun in WA.
Yes, I shall.
And I will see you on a future course.
Yes, you sure will.
and doing your grey belt.
Yeah.
So one day I'll present you the grey belt.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Perfect. All right, you take care.
Okay, big hugs. Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.